want to start off by talking about that comment you made about the judiciary and, religious leaders. You did mention priests, being sucked into the political process, just so people can understand what you mean by them being, sucked into politics.
Well, if you understand what the judiciary is and what the priesthood is, then you know that these are sanctuaries, sacred sanctuaries inhabited by human beings, all the same, but to which public trust is preeminent. The judiciary is made up of human beings, and everywhere you go in the world, it has reverence. It commands awe. But of recent, we have now, the judiciary has now found itself, literally, dragged into politics because it's not the judges that step forward to say, we want to hear a case. People took the cases to them. And happily, yesterday I was in the Supreme Court and I listened to the Chief Justice of Nigeria. You should read his speech. I'm sure it's online. Delivered a fantastic speech, but also spoke about their own trials, their tribulations, public expectations, and they also acknowledge that something has happened to the institution. In the same way that the church, if people stepped into politics, and a lot of people have stepped into politics, I'm talking despite running against the run of play, because as priest, at least I can speak as a Catholic priest, the canon law does not allow you to be a card-carrying member of a party. You cannot stand for election. And I think that neutrality is actually the strength of these institutions. And whether it's the military, if you read, for example, two books, the book by the former Chief of Army Staff, General Bameyi, and another book by, God bless his soul, he died only last week, General Chris Garba. Both of these were former army chiefs. And they speak most eloquently about the consequences and the corrosive impact on the integrity of the military once the military jumped into the public space of politics. So what I'm saying in effect is that we're all, like I said, I'm not a politician, but I'm political because I have got enough political consciousness, and it comes with being human. So my agony is not, I'm not speaking alone, because the judges themselves are worried about what has become of their institution. So I think these are the critical issues. Politics has its own rhythm, it has its own constituency, it has its own actors. Okay, so it's like football. I like to watch football, I like to play football, but I don't get paid. Those who get paid are those who actually go in as professionals. So we're all interested in the judiciary, and I think that from what the Chief Justice of Nigeria had to say yesterday, they're getting their own act together. But my hope and my prayer is that political processes in Nigeria will get to a point in which these institutions, more or less, will be free to do the things that they were set up to do.
I mean, one of the issues that many people have been bringing up, mostly political actors and pundits, really, of Nigeria's political process following, these judicial pronouncements that have come up after the elections, both for the general elections and the other elections that we've seen going on in the country. Many people feel like the judiciary in many ways may not be, fair and providing, the platform where everyone can trust the judgments that come from the judiciary. So basically accusing them of being partisan.
The judiciary is not meant to make people happy. Okay? You go to court, only one person will probably go away happy. So two people cannot go to court and everybody is quite happy. Something must give. And I feel sorry for judges because I'd always said if I weren't a priest, I would have been a lawyer. But I've always been saying to myself, I would never have been able to agree to be a judge because of the huge demands. And as I said, I have been blessed to have seen some really very serious judges at close range. I had the honor of working with Justice Uwais. I had the honor of working with Justice Oputa. I had the honor of working with Justice Nikki Toby. And for me, the whole idea that a decision you make determines, it's literally life and death decisions you have to make every day. And you are human, because every judge is subjected to the same aggregate of identities that all of us have. So imagine you have a case, your classmates are calling you, your in-laws are calling you, your in-laws, friends, relations are calling you, the people in government are calling you, interested parties, everybody is calling you. And
social media is firing you.
Well, no, even the criticism is different from people who are asking for a favor. You know, as I said, quarreling with the judges, I'm feeling happy or unhappy, that's the easy part. The difficult part is, I imagine what these people have to cope with, because everybody, including me, humble me, small me, people have been calling, please call so and so, please call so and the case is before a trial. We all say we want justice. But what if you see justice, will you really recognize it? So I think that they deserve our prayers, let me put it that way. But I think that the attacks have largely not been pretty well founded. It's difficult to imagine whether you're going to have a judiciary that can rise beyond the reality around which it survives, nor the church, nor the business, nor economy, nor politics. So we want to excuse ourselves. We're always looking for scapegoats. Right now, the scapegoat for our judicial process happens to be the judiciary. But the issues are much more than that. It's got to do with the actors. It's got to do with the discipline. If there are no infractions, nobody will go to court. You know, so I remember I met a senior advocate of Nigeria yesterday in the Supreme Court, and he said to me, Bishop, I wanted to write a letter to you, and I said, okay, I'm sorry, sir. So why didn't you? He said, because you said in Bielsa that lawyers should be put out of a job because, he said, what do you want us to do? And I got a text from a lawyer who said, you don't want us to eat? I said, well, you can eat elsewhere, but on this particular pond, if things get stable, then you can deal with other cases. All right? If there are no sinners, there will be no priests. It's our prayer that everybody stops to. But this is the situation we found ourselves in. So I think we must come to terms with the fact that, first, we are going to be on this road for a very long time. Okay? We are focusing on free and fair and credible elections. They are desirable. But desirable as they may be, they are necessary, but they are not a sufficient condition or a guarantee that the outcome will be what we think it is. You can have the freest, the fairest election, the most credible elections, and it could give you some character that is not what you expected. And for us, in a rather dysfunctional environment such as this, of course we should contest all these things. But if at the end decisions are taken, it may be that the person you really didn't expect much from, maybe because of process and other things, has turned out completely differently. You know, so I think that the most critical thing is for us to develop the tools of engagement and engaging this process, because judges will not act independent of us. Lawyers, politicians, everybody. So this country is ours to build, you know, and I think that the judiciary is a vital component, but I worry that by finding itself right in the arena of politics. Yes, people are making money, but this is not what politics was meant to be. It was meant to give money to another group of people, not necessarily lawyers. And I think that lawyering has taken over our politics to the point that I don't need to tell you, everybody who lives in Nigeria knows. You know, so the frivolous cases that have been brought to the court. I was happy to hear the Chief Justice of Nigeria say they are also setting up an arbitration portal, you know, in the Supreme Court. So people can find other ways of resolving their conflicts, because, look, we are Africans, let me put it that way. My little experience at the Oputa panel led me to believe that, look, we are not necessarily so adversarial. And the judicial system that we have, adversarial justice systems tend to think about winners and losers. But African culture is always more towards consensus. And I think that the idea of alternative conflict resolution mechanisms grew out of the feeling, especially in the corporate world, about the corporate damage that institutions felt. If you took Coca-Cola to court, if you took MTN to court, if you took any of these brands to court, it left a damage. So people began to find other ways away from the courts. So really, I mean, the more the courts have less work to do, the better evidence it is that a society is growing, because there are a range of other actors on the scene that can be brought into bear, you know, to help our communities. And I think we must explore those possibilities. Not every case that must go to court. Because it's costing people money, it's costing us time, it's costing us energy, it's costing us trust. You know, but by and large, I think we must be sincere with ourselves to know that, look, our system has its own problems. If you look at the Nigerian judiciary, the idea that a judge will retire at the age of 70 at the Supreme Court, for me, it doesn't make much sense. Is it the money to pay them? Because when I looked at somebody like Justice Oputa, well into his 80s, these people are still very clear-minded and so on. There's a lot they can still contribute. In the American Supreme Court, for example, once you are appointed a Supreme Court justice, you literally stay on until you die or until you want to retire. And there have been one or two, incidents in which people maybe didn't retire but were made to retire in one way or the other. But I think that for the judiciary, we should think a little bit more creatively. But this is Nigeria, where everything is turn by turn. Everybody wants a piece of the action. If you say, okay, let justices stay for too long, what about us? Now, if you have the time, we can talk about some of those issues. Because right now, the President Bola Tinubu is going to be perhaps the only president in the world, because I don't know anywhere else, that it is now going to be within his power to appoint 11 Supreme Court justices. It comes with a lot of responsibility, because among other things, now a government has to have the capacity and the ability to there has to be a certain level of believability.
Bishop, the concept of the president appointing in any capacity, whether it is for the Supreme Court or whether it is resident electoral commissioners, or whatever it is, many Nigerians, when they see, because the president himself is a politician, so the trust in the fact that this politician, who picked these people, would these people not owe their allegiance to him? Is that something that you think about?
It's not like picking the Super Eagles, where uncle, brother, traditional ruler, everybody wants. No, it's not. I think the processes are a bit complicated, but they also speak to the level of activism, because people can like I once said, there are certain Nigerians that if I saw them in the Supreme Court, they won't be perfect, but they will give me an impression of where this government is going. And I think that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has, whatever it is that may be his other problems, it is that he's not ignorant of the political terrain in Nigeria. He's perhaps the first person to come out of what we may call the the civil society struggles, of the last 20 or more than 20 years, beginning with the Abacha period. So it is difficult for him to make mistakes if he's serious about what he needs to do. That he already has an idea, and he evidently has a passion for human rights, for justice, for fairness, for equity. His calling card was always the whole question about federalism. They popularized all that notion. Now he has the time. He must walk the talk. And I'm saying that, look, a president, as I said, you have to want to send out a signal. And here, of course, I commend the president. The very fact that from where we were coming, all right, where we were coming from, my former governor in Kaduna had said that until the video leaked, had said that, look, we are going to be in power for 20 years. And that this Muslim ticket business was to make sure that we're in power for another 20 years uninterrupted. But happily, people were wondering why I wasn't shouting up against Muslim ticket. I focus on individuals and what I think they can bring to the table. There are certain people today that they don't have to be from my community, they don't have to be Catholic, they don't have to be Christian. Most of the people I deal with, it takes me a long time to know where they are from and what they... But the illusion that somebody will craftily say that I have prepared this bed of power on which we are going to lie for the next 20 years uninterrupted. Now, it takes the political sagacity of a Tinubu and a Shettima, whom luckily I happen to know both of them at different times. But my knowledge of them was enough for me to know that these are not people who will instrumentalize religion. They might have other flaws, but I can feel comfortable in their hands that being a Christian will not be a liability to me. Now, where these other people were coming from, who were expecting that a Muslim ticket was going to be the instrumentalization of power, and that the rest of us would probably be cleaning the streets and so on and so forth for another 20 years. But look what God did. I mean, let me put it that way, because suddenly when the names of even the service chiefs are announced, everybody is happy. And I remember I sent a text to, no, I won't tell you that. I won't say that. Because, no, but I'm saying, see the reaction.
So people should rest. That's the message? No. People should relax.
I think we should relax. You know, I'm focused on outcomes. Look, the very fact that I probably will not have a problem. The very fact that the president appoints doesn't mean the president does not consult. Only a stupid man will refuse to consult. The processes of consultation are different. It doesn't mean that because the president didn't pick up his phone to call Bishop Kukah, therefore the president is not consulting. But I think what is missing in Nigeria, especially for those who are in authority and power, is that there is an abysmal ignorance from the subnational level. There are many governors who don't know the ethnic groups that make up the state that they govern. There are many governors who probably have never traveled around even the state that they are governing, and they may never. Because apart from State House, you go to local government headquarters, that's a state visit, unless you are cutting a tape somewhere. Otherwise, so if you, for power is not just something that you hold. Power and office are two different things. You know, office is different, power is different. You can have an office and not have power. You can have power and not have office. But fundamentally, for a complicated country like this, a Nigerian president must have enough sophisticated listening devices that he is hearing the voice of the voiceless, wherever they may be.
Is this the president that can deliver that for us?
I think that, you know, because President Tinubu has been pounding the streets for so long, there are certain mistakes he should not make.
The removal of fuel subsidy.
That is to understand. No, let's not even go
Let's
there.
talk about the economic situation of the country, because, you know, you said...
these hegemonies are tied to ethnicity, to regionalism, and to religion. So this is why Nigeria is not going to work in its present form. And the only solution to this problem is not so much a question of sovereignty of conferences, because there have been a million conferences. It's for a president to have the political sagacity to say, this is not working. We must turn a different direction. So it's not because you see, if you had a country where people have a sense of belonging.
I mean, what's he supposed to do?
Pardon?
When you say the president should have the political sagacity to say, this is not working, we need to change. Change what exactly?
First of all,
he can't turn back time.
Oh, no, listen, you cannot turn back time, but you can remember time. You don't have to turn it back. You can remember it. Certain memories that are important for how you survive. And part of the problem with Nigeria is an African will try to say, oh, forgive and forget. Memory doesn't work like that. An unprocessed memory is dangerous for the person himself. That's why you see in Nigeria, there will be an exponential increase in the levels of mental health, because so much agony is unprocessed. We're just moving. But let me tell you what has happened to Nigeria in the last 10, 15 years with banditry, with abductions, with all of these things. We will pay the price. It may not be now, but we will pay the price. Because there are a lot of people with anger, frustration. Can you imagine children watching their mothers being raped? Can you imagine children watching their parents being slaughtered? Can you remember a generation of young Nigerians? It will be difficult if you go around the Middle Belt and parts of the North. It's difficult to enter a community and find families that are not mourning. Does the state care? The state doesn't care. Okay? We just assume that they have gone. We don't know when they will come. I give you an example. You know, because if you don't deal with these issues, up till today, who killed Deborah? We don't know. In Sokoto, we don't know. And we will never know. And we don't want to know. But remember what happened with the killing of George Floyd. Okay, George Floyd was killed. The police officer who killed him is in prison. He was 40. He's not going to come out of prison until he's 60 or 61.
He was stabbed a few days ago.
Very good. That's one. Two, see what the American government did. The state of Minneapolis was compelled to pay the family of Floyd $27 million. Yes, you heard me right. $27 million. That's what they had to pay the family. Now, when people do murder human beings and people cannot ask a question. For example, what was the cause of the burnings in Sokoto? Is that the then governor, Aminu Tambuwal, said those who did this are going to be tried. And you have a band of people who say, no, you cannot even, and they are more powerful than the state. And they say, you cannot. My cathedral was almost destroyed. One of my churches was partially bombed. Our pastoral center was almost destroyed. Nobody will ask me, Bishop, how much did it cost you to build it? So if you don't punish this, it's not for nothing. America decides that you're going to pay this amount of money. It's not about the money. It is that you will not do it again tomorrow. So what I'm saying, we have unprocessed emotions, okay? And the political space, that's why you see Nigerian politics will remain violent, because there are too many things that are bottled up in the imaginations of people. So the point I'm making is, President Tinubu haven't come from a background of struggle. There are certain sins he cannot commit. And those include turning this country from neo-feudalism, okay, to a liberal, democratic country by opening up the political space. And then creating the infrastructure that enables ordinary citizens, who, no matter the length and breadth where they are in this country, I cannot be sitting in my village and you're treating me as if I happen to be here just by accident. I'm not an immigrant. But right now, in many communities in Nigeria, people are being treated as if they are migrants. Because you are not this, you must be that. And we are running a double-decker democracy with so many layers of identity. Are you okay? You have an employer. You go back to your village, you have to bow before a traditional ruler. And when you go back home, you are only a citizen in Abuja. Back in your village, you are a subject. Okay? Then, of course, you have other layers of identity. Church is calling you here, politics is calling you here, and so on. But we need a moral compass that creates the fact that by being a citizen of this great country called Nigeria, there are rights that I'm entitled to. They are in the Constitution. It is a business of government to breathe life into that constitution. And the former vice president, the only way I got to know Oshibanjo was when they set up this portal for justice. It was innovative. It was creative. That was when I picked up his name. Okay? When he was Attorney General in Lagos. So there are those people who already understand the processes of creating a just society. Otherwise, what we are doing, we just be going around and around saying we are conducting elections. Nigerians are frustrated whether you elect or you don't elect. It doesn't bring any benefit to you.